Come on, Annie. Let's go to the movies.
This is the Cinereelists, episode 498. My name is Kyle.
My name is James.
My name is Zach.
And we're here to talk about movies, movie lists, and movie obsession for the next hour or so. Guys, are you ready for part 2 of part 1 of our 2-episode, 2-part series?
I'm ready. I'm not sure I understood what you just said, but yes, I'm ready. Part 2 of part 1.
Yeah.
I've never heard that before, ever.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
Well, okay, we'll break it down. Last week was part 1 of our top 10 movies we want to talk about.
Yeah.
Right.
Today's part 2.
Yeah.
Right, but it's not part 2 of part 1.
Yeah.
Oh, but you're not seeing the whole thing, though. Now, our next two
Educate
episodes are what? What are our next 2 episodes? Very big ones.
Our top 500s.
And that's also going to be over how many parts?
2.
2. So we're doing 2-part series. So now this is the conclusion. This is the first half of our 2-part series. So this is part 1 of our 2-episode, 2-part series. And then next week starts part 2 of our 2-part, 2-episode series.
This
Just
is
to
absolutely
quote you,
more confusing than it needs to be.
Kyle,
Yes.
Kyle, to quote you, this is the part 2 of our 2-part series, not part 2 of our part 1.
No. This is part 2. This is part 2 of part 1 of the 2-part series.
No, it's not. Oh, okay. You're saying a part 1 of our 2-part series?
Yes.
Ridiculous.
Part 2
Ridiculous.
of part 1 of our 2-episode, 2-part series.
Ridiculous. Not what you thought of when you first said it, but I love you, man.
No, that's exactly what I said. It's written. I even wrote it down to make sure I said it correctly.
That's what you said, but you were not thinking about our next 2-part series when you said that.
Yes, I did.
I totally believe Kyle wrote it down and read it exactly as he wrote it.
Yeah,
it still does not
well.
make sense.
I actually planned this intro out.
Well, if you did, then you planned a poor intro because everyone has turned off their iPods.
Who's listening on an iPod?
I imagine all of them are no longer listening on an iPod.
Yeah, that's the only place you can listen to podcasts, right? It's right there in the name.
It's called an iPod.
iPodcast.
Yeah.
Right. It's an iPodcast.
I thought that was a pretty clever introduction to our rather complicated 2-part, 2-episode series.
Oh, yeah. Super complicated. We did a 2-part series. All you have to say is part 2 of the 2-part series.
Of part 1.
Leave the next 2 episodes out of the game.
But I think it's worth hyping the next 2 episodes. They're going to be big.
Sure.
Oh, they're going to be big.
Podcasts, right? Have you guys been listening to podcasts so long that you used to have to load them into iTunes so that it would download in the background and move itself to your iPods?
Absolutely.
When my iPod was plugged into my computer with like 30 pins,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, you couldn't even do it over Wi-Fi. You had to actually plug it in and then download them. That was back when listening to podcasts actually took effort. Like it was not an easy thing to do back then. For sure. I remember I used to just download them via MP3 to my cell phone at the time, which was a Treo. And like 3 episodes would fill my memory card.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And that was
I used to save my favorite podcast episodes like on my computer for future listening.
Sure.
I probably still have my favorite episodes from 2005.
Just for when you're ready to go back to them.
Well, honestly, I kind of need to find those because there's some podcasts now that are no longer on, iTunes.
Yeah,
like
they don't
just
exist anymore.
Yeah, but it's like I fondly remember them and I would love to re-listen to them.
Sure.
What's the chance they're just on YouTube? Like someone uploaded the audio?
They're not. I've looked. They're not.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I used to also download them on my laptop and then plug my laptop into my car stereo and drive down the road with my laptop in the passenger seat.
With like an 1/8-inch jack, like a headphones jack?
Oh yeah. Definitely. But the battery on my laptop lasted about an hour and a half. So it was basically just a commuter situation, not a long-term thing. But those were the days. I don't wish for them back when it comes to technology, for sure. Speaking of technology, we got a jam-packed show this week. Let's jump into a little bit of housekeeping. First of all, there's a video version of this podcast.
Speaking of jam,
it's on YouTube. Go to YouTube, search Cinereelists, find the podcast there. You can see us while you listen to us right there on YouTube. You could also follow us on Patreon, support us there, get extra after show audio, amongst other Cinerealist swag. You could leave us an Apple Podcast review, 5 stars only. Leave us a little bit of text, and we will discuss it on the show. Another way to get discussed on the show, sending us an email. Send one to heyguys@cinereelists.com with a question, comment, list suggestion, etc., etc. We got an email this week that Zach is going to read to us. Zach?
I will. Yes. This one's from Marco. He says, "Hey guys, just listened to the after show 449 and heard my voice message mentioned. And once again, you have confused my native land, Switzerland, with Sweden." Now, I could just hear him in my head saying this with such resignation.
Right.
Now, this is something that happens with Americans all the time. I'm wondering if you guys know why. Is it only because the first 2 letters are the same? Still love you guys. Patreon Marco from Switzerland.
Mm-hmm.
So, guys, what do you think? Why is it that we have multiple times placed him in Sweden when he is in fact in Switzerland?
Well, I'd like to start out by being any good co-host and throwing James under the bus on this one.
Sure.
Okay.
So I went back and
All right.
I listened to 449. And this is a refresher on the situation. Marco sent us a voicemail, or I should say he sent James a voicemail that was supposed to be for the listener call-in show, and James procrastinated on playing it. And
So we eventually played it.
no, you eventually sent it to Zach. So you and Zach heard it. You two talked about it. I was completely out of the loop on this, being the newbie to the podcast. I didn't even hear it. And at one point, Zach says to James, "James, where is he from?" And then James goes, "Oh, Sweden." And because you two agreed with each other, I never heard it. I just assumed that Mark was from Sweden.
So you're you claim no responsibility.
You're
with this-
washing your hands of this.
with this guffaw.
I would never confuse Sweden and Switzerland. A country, Switzerland, I've been to twice in my life. A country my parents used to live in.
Sure.
No way I could confuse those two. Not beautiful Switzerland to trashy Sweden.
I gotcha. So Kyle, you're the type of person that's like, if you're part of something, you won't take ownership of it. You're like, okay, no, I'm a part, but I'm not
the
really
bad
a part.
I like to wait in the wings until a clear winner is visible, and then I'll jump in and help out.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yep.
Kyle, or Zach, you agreed with me. What do you have to say for yourself?
Yeah, Zach.
Well, so I would say this. I don't know who's at fault here. Perhaps I've done this multiple times on the show. I don't know. I haven't gone back and listened.
I know who's at fault.
There's a very good chance I'm at fault.
But
And-
I'll say this. Why do Americans all the time confuse Switzerland and Sweden? I think it is as simple as they start the same two letters.
SW, yes.
Yeah.
That's part of it. I also have friends in Sweden, and I don't have any friends in Switzerland. So for some reason, the combination of the name and the fact that Sweden comes out of my mouth far more often than Switzerland enters my brain, I
Sure.
think I understand they are not the same place at all. But
Yeah.
for some reason, they coexist.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to ask this question. James,
Mhm.
you have one chance to answer this correctly.
Oh, better
No-
get it right.
No notes.
Okay.
No notes. What country is Marco from?
Switzerland.
That's right. That's correct.
Correct.
I was messaging with him about this, and I thought it'd be fun for the Patreon this week
Uh-huh.
if I administer a Switzerland versus Sweden quiz.
Oh, I'm into it.
Okay, so we can do that for Patreon this week.
Love it.
Sounds awesome.
Yeah.
It'll be a Marco-centric episode.
Yeah, although he's at after show 449, so he'll get to it in like 6 months.
I know he's way behind.
Yeah.
All right. That's
So
our
thank you,
email for
Marco.
this week, but we did get contacted by somebody else who sent us an interesting Instagram message. Is that right, Kyle?
Yeah, Hannah on Instagram sent us a message about last week's episode. She
Oh,
writes,
This is a little more timely.
yes, yeah, this is not from 50 episodes ago. Okay, I need to know, what about You've Got Mail, aka the best rom-com of all time, annoyed Zach? Is he also annoyed with the source material Pride and Prejudice, Shop Around the Corner, and She Loves Me? Is Pride and Prejudice also annoying because they're kind of mean to each other? Also, why did it almost, but not quite, make James' lists? So many unanswered questions.
Yeah, those are great questions, Hannah. Fantastic questions. I feel a little animosity in the questioning. I feel I feel like it's a little bit of a challenge.
Well, I mean,
I'll say this.
Marco attacked all Americans, so
No,
He attacked three of them.
He noticed a common
True.
American ignorance. Yeah, for sure. Okay, so with Hannah and You've Got Mail, I will say I don't exactly know why I was so annoyed by it when I first saw it. I would have seen it in the theaters. I would have been young. And for whatever reason, I found it annoying. And that's really my only takeaway from the film the first time I saw it was that adjective. So I don't know in particular what I found most annoying about it, especially because I'm a Sleepless in Seattle fan. I'm a Meg Ryan and a Tom Hanks fan, whatever. I will say I'm happy to announce that I now like You've Got Mail.
You watched
so-
it again?
No, I mean, I liked it on the plane.
You didn't say you liked it. You said you were no longer annoyed by it.
Yeah, you were
That's what
fine
you
with
said.
Well, hold on. I
Does that mean you
am no
like
longer
it?
annoyed by it. I do like it. Yeah. I think I
Okay.
gave it a 3.5 on Letterboxd.
I don't think you
On my
said that
re-rate?
last week, though. I think you
Well-
said I'm happy. You said I'm happy to announce I am no longer annoyed by it.
That is true. That is true. Both are simultaneously true.
Sure.
Now, am I annoyed by Pride and Prejudice? No, I'm not. Shop Around the Corner. Confession, I haven't seen it. I think I avoided it because it sounded like the same plot as You've Got Mail.
it is
But
the
now
same
maybe
plot.
I don't need to avoid it. So that's perfect.
Sure.
James, that was almost going to be on your list.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what defense I need to mount. I love You Got Mail. It was the 11th movie I most wanted to talk about when I made this list. So out of all the movies, it was number 11. I mean, I don't know how much better, other than 10 through 1, it could have been.
Yeah.
It barely slipped off my list.
Do any of you guys have a favorite rom-com?
I mean, I mentioned
time?
last week 5-year
Yeah.
engagement.
Which I watched this past week.
Oh.
Favorite rom-com of all time? I don't know.
Okay.
I feel like we've done this list. Have we not done this list?
I don't feel like we have. If I don't know what my current one is. My traditional favorite was Serendipity. I always really liked Serendipity.
Right. I feel like we've talked about making the list, and we always talk about it in reference to non-male coming on the podcast, and then we've always scrapped it because it felt reductive to invite a female on here just to run down
Just to-
rom-coms.
That makes sense. Yeah.
And then that meant we've never actually made the list because, I guess 3 dudes could make a list favorite rom-coms. There's no problem with
Yeah.
that. I'm comfortable with that, but we just haven't. Well, that'll be a post episode 500 goal, is a top 10 rom-coms somewhere in there.
Okay.
I'm down with
With
that.
no need to invite any women to it. No women allowed.
These are just 3 dudes talking rom-coms.
Right. We're going to go hard the other way.
Just yeah. Yeah.
All right, guys. Last
Thank
week,
you, Hannah.
part 1
Thank you, Hannah.
was yes, thank you, Hannah. Part 1 was pretty long, so we should probably jump into part 2 of our top 10 movies we currently want to talk about. Now, if you haven't listened to part 1, you should probably go do that. But even if you don't, if you just want to start here, this is a list of just movies we want to talk about. This is actually, of our last week's list, this is number 5 through number 1, at least for my list. I found out after the recording, some people didn't order their list, but I did. So these are the 5 movies that last week I wanted to talk about. The 5 movies I most wanted to talk about. And you'll have to find out from Kyle and Zach how they ordered their list. Let's jump into it. Zach, what's your number 5?
My number 5 is The Hunger Games.
The first movie or the series?
The second and third movie. Second movie.
Okay.
I don't know.
Catching Fire.
Yeah.
And
Here's
Mockingjay
what I
Part
don't know.
1. Those are the ones you want to talk
It's
about?
probably Mockingjay Part 1, which is the movie. That's probably the movie I want to talk about.
Okay.
Unclear. I read The Hunger Games
Mhm.
and I liked it. I watched the movie and I liked it. I read the second book and I liked it. I don't remember if I've seen the second movie or not. I think there's 4 movies now,
Mhm.
right?
Yes.
Yes.
Should I revisit the series and finish it out?
The books or the
Or
movies? Did
the
you
movies.
you finished all the books?
I did not.
You did not.
I only read the first 2.
And you
So my
liked the
question
second
is-
one and you just didn't finish
liked-
it, or what?
Correct. Yes. So my question is, has the moment passed and who cares about the Hunger Games anymore? Or should I go back and rewatch the 2 movies I haven't seen?
Well, you wouldn't be rewatching them. You'd be watching them for the first time. But
Okay.
yes, I say you absolutely should revisit the Hunger Games. I say
'Cause I have no idea what happens.
I say you-
no clue.
I say you start at the beginning. You rewatch the first 2, or whichever ones you've seen, and then follow it up with the first time watches of the last 2 or so. I think it's totally worth it, and I think you'll have a good time doing it.
Okay. All right.
I've seen the first 3 and then never bothered to watch Mockingjay Part 2.
Part
Just
2 is
lost.
my favorite.
Oh, really? I just
Oh, really?
lost steam.
Oh, that's good to know. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Part-
I know. No, I have no clue what happens.
Part 1 felt like, so there's a trend in book adaptations, thanks to, I think, Harry Potter, of taking the last book and let's split it into 2. Right?
Yeah.
And it's felt like, I have a very little memory of this, but Part 1 felt like a lot of just chess moving, piece moving, and a lot of padding of time to try and then stretch it out into 2 movies where maybe they could have told the story they needed to in 1 movie. So I was so disinterested after Part 1 that I didn't even care what happened in Part 2.
That's possible. I think if you watch them back to back, like with the ability to binge them right now, you'll find it's a different experience than watching a movie and then getting to the end of it and thinking, oh, now I got to wait 1.5 years to finish this.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because it'll play more like it'll play more like an episode of a TV show that maybe had some issues than like a huge big budget movie that you paid $20 to go see in a movie theater that didn't really have an ending. And doesn't really have a climax.
I've not paid $20.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the
Yeah.
Part 1 doesn't really have a climax, like a satisfying climax at all, because it's a setup for the second half. It's a Part 1 of a Part 2. So, yeah. It's kind of like Back to the Future 2. When you saw
Careful.
Back to the Future 2, were you like super, other than the fact that you were going to get more Back to the Future, were you super excited about the contents of Back to the Future 2?
Well, you know that Back to the Future 2 is a top 10 movie for me.
Is it really?
Yeah, it's my favorite Back to the Future. Have you not been paying attention, James?
I have not been paying
Top 10
attention.
film.
Yeah,
I
Back to
didn't know
the
it was
Future 2 is my...
Your
Yeah, it's my
favorite Back to the
favorite
Future movie is Back to the Future 2?
Yes.
How? I mean, I like Back to the Future 2 well enough, but it's not better than the first one. Come on.
I like the twisty time mechanics of Back to the Future 2. And I love that they go back to the Future. They go back to 1950 and you see that whole 55. You see that whole sequence again. But this time, second Marty is the observer, just like you are to the whole thing. It's great. I think it's ingenious that they went back to 1955 and did that whole sequence again.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to bag on Back to the Future 2 because I do think it has merits, but I mean, they're not comparable in my mind. Zach, back me up here. Come on.
Yeah,
I'm not the crazy one here, right?
It's my least favorite Back to the Future movie.
I'm not the crazy one here.
Yeah. It's because it's dark for you. You don't like alternate 84 with Biff Trump. That's why.
But I don't have a problem with that, and I still don't think it's near as good as the first Back to the Future.
I know that I'm a bit of an island on this. Like I recognize that. And for me, part of it's nostalgia. When I was a kid, I preferred 2 to the first one. I like the first one. I mean, the first one's still at least top 50, if not top 20 movie. So it's not like there's, light years in distance between them.
Mm-hmm.
But as a kid, I liked going to number 2. Maybe it was the whole take on the future with the flying cars and the hoverboard. I'm not sure. But then as I've watched it more and more, I've come to really appreciate like how much they lean into time travel in the second one, where they're just darting all over timelines and you're seeing all these different takes on the same era. And it's great. I think it's incredibly clever. It does a great job of, it gives you more. It gives you more of Marty and time travel and everything you want in Doc, but it actually progresses the story and gives you something different besides like, let's just go back in time again.
It is more complex than the first one. Like it makes everything more complicated. I'll give you that. And I do think it's a more brave film than the third. I think the third kind of regresses to it's a fun Western, but it might as well not be a Back to the Future movie, just with the Back to the Future cast, basically. But yeah, the first one just has so much more charm than the second one does. The second one is so charmless. Comparison.
I'm not going to argue. I'm not anyone who likes the first one more than the second one.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, like I'm not going to argue that or say like, no, this is why you're wrong. I'm just going to tell you why I like the second one better than the first.
All right.
So this is not a Birdman situation where you're incorrect or anything.
Good. I'm glad to hear that.
Right.
All right, Kyle, let's get going here. What is your number 5?
My number 5 is a movie I actually watched last night. So I'm going to say that the list I made last week is now different than the list I'm bringing this week.
So you changed things up. You kept it true to the title that this is a movie you currently want to talk about.
It's a movie I currently want to talk about.
All right.
So part 1.
Yeah, this is part 2 now.
Part 1 of a new part 2.
No, this is part 2 of the part 1 continuum. This is number 5.
Reduxed.
Final cut. Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, or to the rest of the world, Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone.
The proper title.
The proper title, yes.
I forgot James and I have argued about that.
Yes, the real title.
Real title.
I watched this last night with my son. He's interested in Harry Potter. He's just turning 6, and for his kind of birthday celebration, we thought, let's watch the first Harry Potter movie. Mm-hmm. For one thing, this movie is 2.5 hours long, which I do not remember. I've only seen this movie once, and I saw it 7 or 8 years ago. So I was late to the whole Harry Potter game. And going into it, I remember being like a fine kids movie, but not my favorite Harry Potter movie. And then after watching it last night, I don't think this is a good movie. Like, not even it's fine. I don't think it's good. Like, it's worse than fine.
Really?
Yeah. And maybe it's the source material. I've only read one Harry Potter book.
Ooh, ouch.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I read half of this book in high school, and I stopped reading it because I was so unenamored with the writing. It's so just like there's no prose to it. It's just very in your face.
Oh.
This happens, and then this happens, and then this noun does this verb to this noun, and it's
Poor Kyle was unenamored with the prose.
Yes.
I feel so bad for you.
It's not.
I would hate for you to be unenamored
with prose. It's just not good writing. Like there is good children's literature, like children's novels, like Wrinkle in Time, or heck, even Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Anyway, heck, Zach, you're gonna lay it hard to me this episode. I just feel it. I don't know what I did to you in the last week, but I feel like you're coming for me.
You threw my buddy James under the bus with Switzerland.
James,
of all the neutral countries you could have picked, you did it with Switzerland.
James threw himself under that bus by confusing beautiful Switzerland.
Yeah,
wonderful
40
Switzerland
episodes ago.
With beautiful Sweden.
I've never been there. I have no idea if it's beautiful or not. I can say
I've been to
Switzerland.
Sweden.
Well, I don't trust you at all because you're just trying to undermine me this week.
No, I'm Team Kyle.
Oh, thank you. Anyway, didn't care for the book. Harry Potter was a thing I knew about. Never really saw the movies. Finally watched them like 7-8 years ago. Haven't really thought about them since. Since my son's into it, watched it again. And I just found this movie boring. It's there are characters who are integral to the plot of this movie who like play a big role in the third act who you never hear from. And all of a sudden you're in the finale and you're like, this character is important. And it could be because it's a poor adaptation. Maybe they chose different things to focus on. I found the movie itself unfocused. And again, maybe because they're trying to introduce the world of Harry Potter and Hogwarts and also tell the story that the series actually tells. The CG has aged poorly. And the 2000s, we all know, were a funny decade for CG because it was like a time when people realized, oh, you can do anything with computer graphics. And true, you could do anything with computer graphics in 2000, but you couldn't always do anything good with computer graphics. And I think a lot of it looks poor. A lot of the digital mats, like when they're playing Quidditch, it looks like they're playing Quidditch on a Windows screensaver. It looks so bad. Mm-hmm. And I was waiting for that movie to be over. And I know that the rest are in my future as my son keeps growing up. So I don't know if I can recall you two ever talking about Harry Potter or like what is the show's opinion on the Harry Potter series. I don't think it's a series that ever comes up, minus that one time you guys argued about Philosopher versus Sorcerer's Stone.
Zach, do you want to start or you want me to?
Well, first I have a question for Kyle.
Okay.
I know you told me a little bit about the circumstances that you watched this film under.
Oh, yes.
I believe you watched this on a TV that had the auto motion turned on.
And factory settings.
And factory settings. Mm-hmm. Could that be maybe a contributing factor to why the special effects felt cheap to you? It's
possible, but I remember the first time watching this also thinking the special effects weren't that great. But I'm sure everything turned up to 100 and auto motion turned on did not help.
Okay.
And the fact that there was a half-second delay. This was on my in-laws' TV, and I really wanted to stop and just spend 5 minutes to calibrate everything, but it would have been rude in the moment.
Yeah, you also watched this with a half-second delay in the audio.
Yes.
I just feel like these are not ideal conditions to like a movie.
But I don't think like the audio syncing up or the lack of motion shutter is also going to help the fact that there is poor pacing and poor plotting and the random introduction of key characters in the last 5 minutes.
Did the pacing always feel maybe a half second off to you?
Yeah. I just wasn't sure what was happening at all times.
Okay, so Harry Potter, I have watched all the movies. I have read all the audiobooks.
So you've listened to all the books?
Yeah. And I feel like I'm fine with them. I'm not a huge fan, but and you know there are very huge fans out there. But I'm a huge fan of other things, so I get being a huge fan of this. I'm fine with the movies.
We definitely were a little old for Harry Potter when it came out.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
James?
I enjoy the series. The first two movies are by far the worst of the series, in my opinion. The Christopher Columbus versions feel like they're made for kids, and they were. That was kind of before they had caught on that adults are really what's going to drive this series. You know what I mean? Like, adults are the ones that are going to come back and watch them multiple times in the theaters. It's not a bunch of kids just going to the theaters to watch kids movies. And the movies progressively, they get more grown up, and the topics get more grown up, and things just get more serious, and the whole thing gets more interesting to me. But those first two movies are made for kids, and it shows, I would say. Now, I haven't seen them in quite a while. I don't remember it feeling overlong, but 2 hours and 20 minutes sure sounds overlong for that first movie.
2.5.
Yeah, two and a half.
The next one's 240, which, like, oh, geez.
That sounds really long for a kid's movie.
Yeah.
I remember the third one, which is the...
that's the...
what's his name?
Alfonso Cuarón.
Yeah, that's the Alfonso Cuarón being the first one where I was like, oh, this is what these movies could be like. I could get into this. And from there... I'm not saying they got better, but they at least followed that tone throughout the rest of them. I actually like the part one of the last movie the best, which I think a lot of people don't like, but that's the one that's like has the least action and the most like dramatic teen angst with Harry like hiding out in the tent.
Yeah, it's the one where they go camping.
Imagination tent and stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, I ate all that stuff up, and it's very Twilighty, but I loved it with those characters after having spent that much time with them. And I enjoy the movies, but those first two are brutal. And those first two came out in years when Lord of the Rings came out. And the effects don't suck 20 years later in Lord of the Rings. They just picked their shots in Lord of the Rings when it came to the digital stuff. And the digital stuff in those first two movies, from my memory, was always bad.
Yeah.
But also made for kids. Until the franchise, it was obvious that franchise was huge and they could spend tons of money on each one. And they'd get it back every time. So
the one cool thing is at the very end, the bad guy kind of gruesomely turns to ash, and then he also has like Voldemort's head. Spoiler for Harry Potter. Voldemort's head is like on the back of his head, which is kind of like almost like a Total Recall effect. And Galen was fine with it. Like, he was not freaked out by either of those things. So I'm like, okay, if that doesn't scare you, what will? No, it's more like, okay, if you could handle that, like, what else can we now maybe watch that
sure
I thought was maybe too scary at the time?
Yeah. Don't remember the particulars, so I couldn't tell you how scary that scene is or not.
I would call it not as bad as like Raiders of the Lost Ark face melting, but definitely, you know, a guy turning to ash in sort of a gruesome way. Not as bad as like Old when the guy has what is it? The infection. It's along those lines.
Real question. Were you ever scared by the face melting scene in Raiders of the Lost Ark? Like, I remember kind of being grossed out by it and it like sticking with me, but I don't remember in the moment being like fearful or scared by it. Just like more like, ugh.
Yeah, maybe more grossed out than frightened or scarring. Yeah.
Sure. All right.
What's your number 5, James?
Good hot take on Harry Potter.
Thank you,
Kyle. My number 5 is from 1975. The Apple Dumpling Gang. Have you guys ever seen the Apple Dumpling Gang? What?
No.
Kyle.
Only heard of
That's-
this because you've talked about it a bunch.
No,
I've talked about this a bunch.
It's on Disney.
I don't think I've talked about this a bunch.
Didn't you recently talk about this because it's a Disney movie, right?
Yeah.
And it's on Disney Plus now. And you were talking about now I can watch the Apple Dumpling Game whenever I want on Disney Plus.
Did I say that?
I have this memory. Yes, I don't know.
I mean, I absolutely believe you because I did look it up to see if it was on Disney Plus, and it's absolutely on Disney Plus, and I can absolutely watch it whenever I want. And I don't remember if the Apple Dumpling Gang's on my top 400, but it really should be because I love the Apple Dumpling Gang, and it's the kind of movie that I don't think gets made very much anymore because it's a kids movie in which the kids are not the point. All the parents are the point. It's kind of like the Shaggy Dog, right? The Shaggy Dog had a couple kids in it, but it was really about the main actor turning into a dog, right?
Yeah, the titular character.
It was about the adult, but it was for kids.
Yeah.
Whereas I feel like a lot of kids media has kids at the center of it and less adults at the center of it. Is that true? Or am I just crazy?
Yeah, that's true.
Okay. With the Apple Dumpling Gang, you got like Don Knotts. You got all these comedians from the time, I would say. Don Knotts is probably the biggest one, but Slim Pickens, Bill Bixby, a bunch of people are in this. It's a Western where these like bumbling bank robbers, I think they are, or whatever, they're troublemakers, somehow are tasked with the care of three sibling orphans. And so the orphans kind of like mess with the bank robbers, and the bank robbers don't think the kids know what they're truly up to, and the kids foil them here and there just to mess with them. It's totally wacky and weird and would absolutely never be made today, and I love it. I just wanted to talk about it. The Apple Dumpling Gang. There's a sequel that sucks.
Would anyone enjoy it? Like, would I enjoy it now?
If you watched it,
cared?
I think you would enjoy just how wacky it is, and it would remind you of live action Disney movies from the time.
Okay. What year is it? You said
1975.
Okay.
So even though it's a Western, it feels like Freaky Friday from that time period. Feels like all those live action movies from around that time period. Yeah, I'm not going to say it's good, but I will say I love it.
All right. Well, cool.
Because I appreciate movies.
You are a movie appreciator.
We're here to talk about movies.
Exactly.
Movie appreciation.
Yeah. Okay. My number 4. I want to talk about the Flight of the Navigator remake that is going to be made.
I think I vaguely knew this was happening.
Okay, so Flight of the Navigator, if you haven't seen it, is the 1986 sci-fi adventure film where a boy goes unconscious. He like falls down, conks out. When he wakes up later that afternoon, he goes home, and 8 years have passed, and his family have moved on from having a missing child, and now it's 8 years later, and he's still the same 12-year-old boy. And then a spaceship takes him on a journey, and he finds out why he has 8 missing years. And then the spaceship is voiced by Pee Wee Herman. This is a beloved.
It's not like they're like,
it's like,
why is Pee Wee Herman?
Yeah, it's Paul Rubens.
I mean, it's just the same actor that plays Pee Wee Herman. It's not literally Pee Wee Herman.
Yes, but I will say the voice acting is very similar to Pee Wee Herman's character than just Paul Rubens in general.
I mean, minus the laugh and the other.
No, he does the laugh. He does the laugh.
He does the laugh.
He does the Pee Wee laugh. Well,
I don't think he does
does.
the laugh.
You cannot think that all you want.
Waiting.
Yeah, he literally does that laugh in Flight of the Navigator.
I have to watch Flight of the Navigator again.
Yeah.
You absolutely have. Take this as your opportunity. He starts off as kind of a straight-laced spaceship robot,
Mm-hmm.
and then he like mind melds with the boy character, and after that, he's full Pee Wee Herman at that point.
Yeah, he does get personality, doesn't he?
Yeah,
I remember that.
yeah,
Okay.
that he doesn't have before.
And then once he gets personality, he just like starts cracking jokes and laughing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, absolutely. All of that. Yes. Okay. So I love Flight of the Navigator. They're remaking it. Disney's remaking it, and the director has been announced as Bryce Dallas Howard. So I want to talk about what we think about that.
I am okay with the director being Bryce Dallas Howard.
Yeah.
I think that's promising. I think having seen, I can't think of a ton of movies I've seen of hers, but she's definitely been doing TV. And whether it's been, Black Mirror, Mandalorian, she's definitely done episodes of.
Yes.
Yeah.
Can I make a prediction that you might be able to verify it right now? Are they also gender swapping the kid?
They have not announced if they are gender swapping the kid.
Okay.
They certainly could be.
Seems like something they might do.
And now, do you say that just because there's a female director?
I say that because I feel like when they redo these things this late in the game, they're probably going to do that anyway. And the fact that they hired a female director cements it.
Oh, cements it. Like you would bet on this.
That's the plan. What?
You would bet on this.
I would be surprised if they don't do that.
Gotcha. Okay.
I think that's sad. I think,
you becry.
It shouldn't be that you only
decry.
hire women to direct movies when you're going to gender swap the classic, but it feels like a trend, and so I'd be shocked if it doesn't follow that pattern.
What's the last movie that got kind of remade a long time later?
I don't know.
Okay.
I'm gonna look something up.
Well, I don't know if they're gender swapping the main character.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I'm curious what a Bryce Dallas Howard directed film is going to look like for Flight of the Navigator. I hope it has a little bit of that Ron Howard energy.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit of that Bryce Dallas Howard energy.
You don't like Ron Howard, though.
That's not true.
Oh, it's not?
I don't love or hate him. He's a pretty across the board director for me.
Okay.
He's got his highs and his lows.
Yeah. He's uneven, I would say.
Is this a movie where how technology has changed in 30 years that the characters would have? Would that change at all the plot of the movie?
Yeah, it would have to.
Is it the fact that now he can just I can just call my parents, or I can Google myself and figure out what happens? Versus a movie that took place in the 80s, there's a much more mystery involved. What's going on, because he doesn't have access to all information at all times.
I mean, he finds out he basically meets his parents and passes out, and in the hospital they explain to him what happened. So he gets to know what happened pretty quick. So I don't think from that aspect, but from the aspect of being able to track this guy down and the parents searching for him, all that's going to be updated for sure. So I don't know. I'm game for it. I'm anxious to see what will happen. I do hope. The ship in Flight of the Navigator was so cool.
Yeah.
Basically, the inside, it looked so bare bones and minimalistic, but things could just kind of a chair could just come up from the ground, and that was so cool. I do hope that they make a good ship and not just something that's. I want something practical on the inside, not a CGI kind of liquid ship on the inside.
It's very well going to be a CGI liquid ship.
I just hope it's not.
I agree. I hope it's not, but there's a strong chance that maybe part of that ship will be practical, when it's in its one form. But I think there's going to be a lot of CGI look things appearing out of the walls.
Transformer style, impossible micro nanotech.
Take Transformers and Abyss and smash that together.
Okay, that's too bad.
Wasn't there a giant eye in the ship also? A robotic eye? Yeah.
Yeah.
That was
that's-
that was the That character.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Here's the eye.
I thought he was just like a voice in the ship.
He's a voice, but he's like
He was.
represented by the
eye.
moving
Okay,
around and
okay.
stuff.
It's been a while. I do really like that movie. That was one of those movies where, like, being around the same age as a kid, you'd watch that and you're like, what if I disappeared for 8 years? Like,
Oh yeah.
like this could happen to me, obviously.
Oh yeah. Now watch it as a parent with a son. I rewatched it recently. It's a different experience watching it as a parent.
Oh, great. Now it's going to ruin me.
No. Just hug him tight.
But
Don't let aliens abduct him.
I'll try. So far, no abductions.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so that's what I wanted to talk about.
It's good. Do they have a release date for that movie?
No.
Or even a year? Okay, nothing yet.
Sometime
No, they
between
just have-
now and never.
Yeah, they just have writers and directors.
True, they don't
Do you
even
want to know the writers?
they don't even have a cast yet, so.
Do you want to know the writers?
Yeah.
One of the writers wrote on Arrested Development, where he's a producer for Arrested Development.
One of the writers was a producer on Arrested Development.
Yes, and a writer
And what's
for
the
Wild
name?
Hogs. Wild Hogs.
What's the
Brad
name?
Copeland.
Okay.
The motorcycle movie?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Promising.
Yeah, exactly. And then the other one wrote for White Collar and Lucifer. The show, not the Bean.
Sounds like they got a real crack team
Yeah.
together.
I'm going to say that writing group took it down a peg for me.
Here's the thing. Pre-production writing crew, this could change a number of times, right?
And we know the more writers a movie has, the better. That's always a good sign when you see 6, 7, 8 writers on a movie.
Now, I'm not
Yeah.
saying that these guys can't write a good movie. I'm just saying they haven't written a good movie. But they also haven't written a lot of bad movies either. So, you know.
Yeah,
I might
exactly.
just- yeah. I'm fine
That's a
with
great way to think of it. Yeah, there you go.
I want the Alex Garland take on Flight of the Navigator.
it. That would be amazing. But
Oh, yeah.
We're not going to get that.
Full soundtrack and everything. I want the full
Sure.
Alex Garland experience. I think I just want an Alex Garland kids movie.
Okay.
I mean, I'd rather him just make another good adult movie.
Yeah, I know. But I would take a kids movie.
Sure.
All right. My number 4 is 2 movies that came out in 1987 that I found a common thread through. I just thought it was very interesting because they're 2 movies
Okay.
you maybe wouldn't expect to see that.
Mhm.
The first one is Predator, and the second one is Full Metal Jacket.
Okay.
Predator is a movie that I rewatched recently, and it's something I had not seen since like watching it on cable late night when I was a kid. So it's been a long time. And I, obviously I knew Predator is a very memed thing. It's very common in our culture now. So a lot of what happens in Predator was not, I was aware of, even though it has been 25 years since I've seen it. But it was actually really cool to watch it again. It had a trope that I like where you've got Arnold Schwarzenegger at the end using the forest to defend himself and building traps and contraptions. And it was awesome. But there's this one scene in Predator that stood out to me. And it's the first time they see the actual Predator, and Schwarzenegger and his crew panics, and they basically unload every bullet and bomb and missile and everything they have. They just unload into the forest. Like someone shouts, "There it is." And there's like a minute-long scene of them just shooting every gun they have.
Mhm.
And when that scene's over, there's like basically a hole in the jungle where they just like ripped it apart and nothing's there. And it's a really cool scene to watch. It's a scene I rewound to watch again because it's an awesome action scene, even though nothing's happening, just to see all these bullets and casings flying and trees falling and explosions going off was great.
Yeah, and Jesse Ventura, isn't he like holding a
He's-
a gun that's like literally off of a helicopter?
Yeah, he's got a minigun.
Right.
And then when everyone runs out of bullets, his minigun is still spinning. So the only thing
Right.
you hear is like that whirring of the gun as they all realize what just happened. It's a great scene.
Yeah.
Right? John
It is.
McTiernan directed it. Yeah.
I like that movie. Predator definitely holds up just because the premise, guys in a forest
Mhm.
getting chased down by an alien who, can see the heat map of their body. It's perfect.
Yeah. And his stealth effect is super cool. How they
Mhm.
represent that on screen. It's kind of like this warped, shape he has. Very, very
Yep.
cool. Shortly after I watched Predator, within like a week, I watched Full Metal Jacket. Very different movie. I guess you
Mhm.
could call Full Metal Jacket an action movie in a sense. Like it has action moments in it. But it's more of a war movie.
I'd call it a war film.
It's a war
I
film
would
with
not
bullets.
call Full Metal Jacket an action movie.
True, okay.
That's for sure.
A swashbuckling action adventure.
All right. It's a war movie, but it has war in it. And there is
It's a war movie that has war in it. Yes.
Okay. Now I'm off track.
Agreed. I agree. No, I
It's a
agree.
war movie. There's war in it with warriors fighting war.
Yeah.
Right.
So in the third act, they're clearing a village, a town, right?
Mhm.
And there is a sniper. And the sniper takes out one of the members of the platoon, whatever you want to call it. And everyone starts panicking. And they start just shooting their weapons. And it's almost the exact same scene as Predator. Maybe not as crazy, but
Mhm.
they like all these soldiers in Vietnam just open up and they unload every bullet they have into this building. And it's actually a very cool scene. Like you don't think of Kubrick as being one who can direct action, not an action movie
Mhm.
director. But like in this moment, he just has like all the squibs going off, all the guns are firing. I was like, wow, this is almost like Predator, where you have the people just panicking and just shooting at whatever they want to. And I just found that a very interesting thing. The two movies in 1987, very different, but had the same idea of like, how can we show soldiers panicking and just unloading all their weapons?
Yeah.
Nice.
I need to rewatch Full Metal Jacket. I don't really remember that scene.
It's like it's a wide shot, so you're kind of behind the soldiers. You can see the
Mhm.
whole building, and then they just start firing and just squibs all over the building of cement just flying out. Like it is pocketed with bullets. It is. It's an amazing thing to see on that screen.
Sure. And it's all practical.
Yeah, there was no graphics.
Right. That was pre-computer graphics.
By
What year was Full Metal Jacket? That was in the 80s, right?
87. Yeah, Predator and Full Metal Jacket were both 87. By famed action directors John McTiernan and Stanley Kubrick.
It is interesting that those two movies have similar scenes. That's pretty much where I would leave the similarities.
Oh, no, they are not the same movie by any stretch of the imagination. But the
Sure.
fact that they had two similar scenes, like
right.
I wonder what influenced Kubrick, not Predator obviously because they came out at the same time, but what influenced him to shoot that scene that way?
Sure.
A same way that John McTiernan would shoot the same scene in a silly action movie.
Well, in Full Metal Jacket, they're kind of making like a slight commentary, right, on the idea that like we had a ton of firepower and
Yeah.
it didn't matter.
I wouldn't even call it slight commentary. It's pretty
Right. Whereas
on the nose.
in Predator, I guess you could make the same commentary, like they have tons of firepower and none of it matters against this enemy.
Mhm.
But I think that might be generous to Predator. I think more it was about watching a bunch of guys tear up a jungle
Yeah.
and have most of their ammo gone, so that now it all becomes hand-to-hand combat for the most, or survival combat for the
Mhm.
rest of the movie. Cool. My number 4 of the top 10 movies I want to talk about is from 2012, and this movie won Best Picture in 2012. What movie is it?
Crash.
Argo.
Argo. I want to talk about Argo. Not necessarily about the movie. More just like, how did this win Best Picture? I mean,
How did this
seriously,
win
come
Best
on.
Picture?
Is Ben Affleck possibly the actor that's been in the most Best Pictures, unworthy Best Pictures? Because like Argo's fine. It's a good spy thriller type
What does
of
that
thing.
mean?
It's fine. It's perfectly watchable movie, but was it the best movie of that year? Must have been a real thin year, if that's true.
It's a movie about how the movies save the day. And the Academy
so you think-
loves movies about themselves.
You think it was a Hollywood politics type of thing? Like they like the politics of the movie. They like the signaling.
Yeah.
that Hollywood can save the day.
Yeah, it's a feel-good movie. It's a period piece. Hollywood are the heroes, whether that's the true story or not. At least in the movie, they are.
Mm-hmm.
And it shows, it's the power of movies, the power of Hollywood. How can Hollywood can solve all problems?
Yeah, all that. But I don't know. I don't get it, and I don't think either of you guys have it super high on any of your lists either.
Oh
No,
no,
I don't
that I
care
can
about
think of.
Argo.
Yeah, you don't care about Argo. Kyle, you don't
No.
care about Argo for the most part.
I enjoyed it in the moment, but it's a movie I haven't really thought about since now that you brought it up, but not since then.
Right.
I liked 7 of the other Best Picture nominees better than Argo.
What are they?
I'm gonna list them off, and you guys give me thumbs up, thumbs down on the movie. Okay.
Okay,
Oh, Amour,
Thumbs up.
haven't seen it.
Beasts of the Southern Wild,
Yes,
Big thumbs up.
I
Big thumbs up.
definitely like that movie more than Argo.
Django Unchained,
Thumbs up.
I like that movie more than Argo, but I don't think it should win Best Picture.
Les Miserables,
I liked it.
It's fine.
It's bad.
It's
I wouldn't say it's
bad.
bad.
It's annoying.
It's
Okay,
fine.
it's annoying.
It's annoying.
I couldn't finish it. I was annoyed.
Oh, so you haven't seen it? I gotcha.
Yeah, just like you haven't read Harry Potter.
No. Those are similar in your mind. Me listening to the entirety of the Harry Potter series on audiobook versus you watching some of this movie.
Exact same.
Okay.
Yep. No,
Gotcha.
I saw enough of Les Miserables to know what was going to happen for the other 2 hours, or I watched like 45 minutes of it. I'm like, I know where this is going. I don't need to see any more
Oh.
of this.
You didn't even watch half of it.
No. I couldn't get through the filmmaking. It's the constant moving camera, with it like in and out of focus, in and out of people's faces. I just was not down with the filmmaking style whatsoever. Did not need to hear Russell Crowe sing another song. I got Anne Hathaway singing "I Dreamed a Dream." Like, all right, I'm good. I got what I needed out of this movie.
Wow.
Typical like cool guy band teacher, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's me. Life of Pi.
Love it. Actually, I like the book better.
Life of Pi.
How'd that sound?
I definitely think is better than Argo, but it's not. I don't think I'd pick that for Best Picture that year. But
Oh, I read that book.
With your eyeballs?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. You could do that.
Yeah. Both are legitimate forms of consuming books.
Lincoln.
Man, these are definitely fine.
I loved Lincoln. Lincoln
Yeah,
was
Lincoln
awesome.
was great.
again, not. I like that movie too, but not a Best Picture that year.
Silver Linings Playbook.
Also good.
I'm meh.
And my personal pick for Best Picture of that year, Zero Dark 30.
I like that movie too.
I don't know. I turned it off with a half an hour left. It just was so boring. There was no action. It just so it's a terrible movie.
No. Are you making the comparison that because I didn't care for the like filmmaking style, which was established at the beginning of Les Mis, it was not changing. That's the same as me being like, oh, I got bored by this movie and turned it off.
Yeah. The style of Zero Dark 30 is, it's there's a lot of talking. There's no action. There's no tension, right? There's nothing like happening in real time.
Yeah, seeing a guy getting tortured in real time is no tension there whatsoever.
I'm just kidding.
You're arguing in bad faith, my friend. Shame on you.
I'm using your style.
If I was picking, I absolutely would have given it to Beasts of the Southern Wild. I think that would be super unique and very well made.
Yeah. I would have probably given it to Lincoln.
Kyle?
Oh, Zero Dark 30.
All right. Sounds good.
Maybe they split the vote, and that's how Argo got it.
I'm fine as long as we all agree that it shouldn't have been Argo.
Yeah,
that's all I wanted to talk about.
Yep.
When it comes to Argo.
Should not have been Argo.
Perfect.
Okay, my number 3.
Mm-hmm.
I want to talk about a Shailene Woodley film that I haven't seen called Insurgent from 2012.
Oh, the last of them?
No, that's the middle one. It's the middle one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you seen the first one, Divergent?
Yes, I've seen Divergent.
What's the third? Antisurgent or something like that?
Allegiant.
Antiseptic.
I want to talk about Insurgent. I've seen Divergent, the first one, and I want to know, should I continue? Do I need to see Insurgent?
I have not seen these movies, so I think James has to weigh on this. But my knowledge of this series is it just kind of got forgotten. Like they made all 3 of them, but by that third one, the studio was like, just get it out the door, dump it, let's move on with it. Like there was no marketing. So I don't even know what kind of effort they put into those last 2.
Here's what's going to be frustrating. There's 4 movies, and they only made 3 of them, and they're not going to make the 4th as it stands right now. And so part 3 has an ending, but also leaves a couple things open. And so you can watch the second and the third. It's just never going to be what it would have been had they given it the 4th movie to finish it off. And that's frustrating because I really like the first Divergent, and I think the next 2 were on par. They didn't get better, which is what you hope from a series. Like I think the Harry Potter movies get better over time for the most part. There's a lot of series that don't do that, but that's what you're hoping for, right? And I think the Divergent series stayed as good as the first one. So if you liked the first one and you're considering watching the rest of them, you'll get something out of 2 and 3. And then at the end of 3, you'll be like, why didn't they just finish this? Because they're so close. They got 3 out of 4.
Okay.
And there was some issue with the third one, and it made it so that the box office underperformed. And I think it was less about the content of the third one and more about the release schedule or what it was up against or something like that. And they took that as a sign to drag their heels on making the 4th. And then eventually Shailene Woodley started making comments in the press that she didn't want to make the 4th. And then I think they just dropped it completely because she was publicly saying she didn't want to be in the last one.
Gotcha. Okay.
But it's fun to see Miles Teller in a sci-fi movie. There's more Miles Teller in 2 and 3 than was in 1.
Is Miles Teller in those movies?
Miles Teller is in those movies, I believe.
Okay. Yeah. Great.
He has a very small role in the first one, and then it gets a little bigger in the second and third.
Nice. Okay. All right. I've always been curious, and I did like the first one and felt like, do I need to catch up on this?
I like it enough that I have it on Blu-ray.
Okay. Well, it's
so
very easy to have on Blu-ray.
Yeah.
It's not hard. It's hard to find a third one on Blu-ray.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah, because it died on the vine, so they didn't make many of them, I don't think.
Gotcha.
Same thing with Hunger Games Part 4. If you want to buy those as individual titles, the 4th one is worth like $12. All the others are worth nothing.
Yeah.
But it's because the 4th one, people were out on the series by then. And there's like, by the time the fourth one came out, they started releasing them as collections of 4. So if you want to buy the individual title, it's actually rare for some reason. Well, for those reasons. So you're thinking you're going to dip your toe into it or no?
I might dip my toe. Yeah.
All right. Totally easy watch. That's for sure. So
Okay.
fun. What's the term? YA
Yeah.
Yeah.
YA series. Yeah.
Dystopian YA.
Yep. Kyle?
My number 3 is I think it's a top 200, maybe 300 movie for me. Movie I really like that I haven't seen in a while, and I don't think you guys ever talked about. This is Sneakers from 1992. Have you guys seen Sneakers? You're nodding, so I feel like you guys have seen this.
I'm
seen Sneakers.
nodding because I absolutely have seen it, and I could not tell you almost anything about Sneakers.
Oh, okay.
But I've definitely seen it. It's got like Brad Pitt in it, right? And
No.
no?
No.
No, Robert Redford.
Robert Redford.
Yeah, Brad
Right.
and River Phoenix. Maybe that's who you're thinking of.
Give me the premise.
Okay, so Robert Redford plays I guess you can call him like he was a hacker in the 70s in kind of like one of these weather undergroundish sort of groups. And he gets betrayed at the beginning of the movie in a flashback by his partner, who's played by Ben Kingsley. And I believe he served some time. And now he has a group of kind of like computer hacker heist guys and is employed to steal something from Ben Kingsley and has to use Mission Impossible style tactics to make the theft happen. So I would say this is a Mission Impossible style movie, more in line with the series from the 60s, not the Tom Cruise style of Mission Impossible. So you've got Robert Redford. He's also working with Sidney Poitier. Dan Aykroyd's on his team. David Strathairn's on his team. River Phoenix is on the team. Mary McDonnell, who I totally forgot was in this movie. Did you guys ever watch Battlestar Galactica?
The remake?
The
or
remake.
The original?
The remake.
I watched the remake, yes.
Yeah, so Mary McDonnell was the president, right? The school teacher, Laura Roslin. Totally forgot she was in this movie. And James Earl Jones is in this movie. It's a really fun heist style movie where they're using, I don't know if they're actually using masks, but they're using like surveillance technology. They're using hacking. They're using fake rooms, Mission Impossible style, to like trick people into stealing what they need to steal. And there's this one scene I remember where there's a vault that's locked by voice, and they need to get the guy who can access the vault. They need to get him to say a certain sentence to get into there, but they can't just say to him, "Hey, could you say the sentence?" Because then he would know what they're up to. So Mary McDonnell is like trying to seduce him and getting him to say all these key words and recording them. And the final word she can't get him to say. So she's just like, "Can you say one more word for me?" He goes, "Sure. What is it?" And then she goes, "Passport." And he goes, "Passport?" And she's like, "All right, thanks." And he's out of there. It's super funny. I don't know. It's just, I was going to go through my list and like, what are movies that I like that don't come up? And Sneakers is definitely one of them.
Nice.
Yeah, I liked Sneakers. I think it's charming.
Yeah.
I have it marked on Letterboxd. This was pre Letterboxd that I watched it. So I rated it, based on my memory. Who knows when I saw Sneakers? Probably around release, I would guess. And on Letterboxd, I gave it 2.5. So it's probably underrated. I probably need to rewatch it.
I think you have to give it a second chance.
Yep. Here's a question. Since this is a movie about hackers, do you guys know what a sneaker net is?
No.
What's a sneaker net? When somebody says, let's make a sneaker net.
No.
Nothing.
It's when you take a USB key, you put it in one computer, you put the file on it, and then you walk the USB key to another computer and you move the file from one to the other. It's literally a sneaker net. That's a real
Sneakernet.
thing.
I get it.
That's a
I get
real
it.
thing.
Yeah. All right.
Like places that don't want to be on the internet but do want to move files around would literally do that back in the day when people were super paranoid about people hacking into things. They just wouldn't put it online and they'd sneakernet everything.
Love it.
Let's see. My number 3 is from 1955, and it's a movie I have not seen, and I'd like to talk about it. Rebel Without a Cause.
Yeah.
You haven't seen it?
Why should I watch this? It feels like everybody thinks what's his name is so cool. This is the cool
What's His
movie
Name?
that James Dean was in, and I don't care about James Dean. I will never care about James Dean. I don't
Well,
care
you
how
don't
good
care
he
about
is
him
in this
because you
movie.
haven't seen Rebel Without a Cause.
Yeah.
You're telling me that this is the problem with this movie is I've been told over and over that I'm going to watch this movie and then I will think that James Dean is the coolest guy ever because that's what happens to everybody that watches it. Which
No, no,
means
no.
now I get to watch this movie with a chip on my shoulder because 1 million people told me that this is going to make James Dean the coolest guy ever for me. And then I'm going to watch it. I'm going to be like, not the coolest guy ever.
This
And then I'm gonna
movie,
be like, maybe he would have been the coolest guy ever if everybody didn't say he was the coolest guy ever. And I could have experienced it without that hanging over the movie. But it's too late now.
this movie will not make you realize that James Dean was the coolest guy ever.
Yeah.
This movie, if it does anything, will make you realize that James Dean was an amazing actor who could have given us so much more because he is so natural in this role in this movie. And he is so good that it's a shame that we did not get more movies from him. I don't think this
Okay.
movie is overhyped. It is hyped as like James Dean's so cool. Without a Cause is this, significant movie about teenagers from 55. And that's all true. But really, his acting is that good.
I'll say this, James.
Mm-hmm.
In order to pull you specifically in, okay? This movie shares a lot of the same locations as La La Land.
Oh.
And you will absolutely recognize places between the two.
So I should watch it for that reason.
I think that
and
is a good
not
hook.
because James Dean is the coolest guy ever, and that's why you should watch it. I
Get-
should watch
I
it for the
don't-
La La Land locations. And if
Yes.
James Dean happens to be the coolest in it, then so be it.
Drop this
Yeah.
cool thing. Forget cool.
I'm just saying I can't forget it. My entire life, people have told me this movie's cool, and the reason why it's cool is James Dean. So I can't just erase that from my
Yeah.
brain. But
James.
I might be able to
Yeah.
trick my brain into watching it, not because James Dean is cool, but because I want to see the La La Land locations. And then it'll be a happy surprise if James Dean is cool in it.
Yes. That is where I think you need to come at it from.
See, this is why I wanted to bring it up. I needed an entry point, and I couldn't find one other
Yeah.
than hate watching it.
No,
because
don't
James
hate
Dean
watch it.
can't possibly be as cool as it's been hyped up to be.
Yeah. And it also has a decent plot. It's not just James Dean. It has a decent plot.
What's the without spoilers? Can you?
There's some street
guy's
racing.
a rebel and he doesn't have a
No, there's
clause.
some street racing with some stakes.
Oh, so it's a Fast and Furious prequel.
No,
Yeah.
it's a movie about teen angst. It's about teen angst, and it's about dealing with your parents.
I would describe him less as cool and more just as emotional.
Yeah.
Really?
Oh yeah.
He's super
Yeah.
emotional.
There,
Yeah.
I'm.
It's pretty melodramatic.
Proto emo.
Doesn't the movie The Room, the really bad Tommy Wiseau,
Yeah.
it has a line of like blah blah blah, you're tearing me apart.
Yeah.
That's from this movie.
Yeah.
Sure. I know the reference. I've seen
Okay.
all the famous stuff from. I feel like Rebel Without a Cause, even though I don't know the plot, I feel like I've seen the movie because
Yeah.
it constantly gets It's one of those that always gets in the Oscar roles of old movies and stuff.
Sure. But I don't think this movie is a Pierre LeFou or a Cool Hand Luke. So don't think it's that.
No.
What, like highbrow? Like I'll be the coolest guy ever if I see it. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Or if
Yeah.
I like it. Yeah. I have no concern about that. More just wasting my time with a movie from 1955 starring a guy that can't possibly be the coolest guy ever. But I will watch it for the La La Land locations.
Yeah.
That will not be a value judgment that's risky because they're either there or they're not.
You can be like, check and check.
I saw
I
it.
saw them.
Yep.
I saw the references.
You also get a
That's
good
great.
Natalie Wood performance.
Okay.
So there's
James, do you care about that?
Not really.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm just saying that there's more to this movie than James Dean. It's not like it's an okay movie with a great performance.
I'm trying to think what Natalie Wood was in.
West Side Story. Yep, that's
Okay.
a big one. The Searchers.
Was she was the tainted woman in The Searchers?
The kidnapped woman, yes.
Right. Well, tainted according to the characters in the movie, she was tainted. I'm not.
Yes,
saying she was
according to the
tainted.
incredibly racist characters.
She was wasn't she also in Miracle on 34th Street?
I see that. I don't remember who she played in that movie, though.
She was like a child actor, I believe.
Okay.
She was also in Gypsy, right? 1962.
You have exhausted my Natalie Wood knowledge. But yes, she was in Gypsy from 1962.
And didn't she get a nomination for what was that movie? Splendor in the Grass from 1961. Is that right? Or was that Love?
She was
with
in
the,
Splendor in the Grass.
Was that
but
Love with the Proper Stranger from 1963? I think it might have been Love with the Proper Stranger.
With Steve McQueen?
63. Yeah.
Okay.
My favorite Natalie Wood movie, though, is easily Inside Daisy Clover from 1964.
Not
Or
familiar with that
maybe
one.
Bob and Carol and Ted and Alice from 1969. Possibly.
Okay. That's good.
You've seen all these, huh?
Yeah, I have. I
okay.
memorized the years they were released.
Yeah,
too.
obviously.
I'm a big Natalie Wood fan. All right.
Well,
Don't doubt it.
what are your thoughts on Peeper?
I even know her Russian name, so don't test me.
Really? I'd love to hear your pronunciation.
Yeah, please.
Natalia Nikolaevna Zaharenko rolled right off my
Wow.
tongue.
Yes,
like a back of my
you
hand.
do know that name.
I do. I absolutely quote unquote know that name for sure.
That is super impressive, James.
Thank you. I appreciate the input, Zach, for giving me a way in to Rebel Without a Cause. My number 3.
Cool.
Kyle, you were no help.
Okay, my
Wow.
number 2 movie that I want to talk about is Disney's Robin Hood.
Oh my gosh. I'm surprised this wasn't like all 10.
I don't know if this has ever come up before. Is this the animated Fox one?
No, it's not. This is the live action remake that is going to be on Disney Plus that's in development.
Now,
right.
by live action, are we talking like live action air quote? Am I doing the quotation marks correctly here, Zach?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Like live action Lion King style? Are we talking animals walking around? Or are we
We
talking
don't know.
humans?
No, not humans. Yeah. It'll be animation. We just don't know if it's gonna be like a Lion King kind of realistic animation or like a 3D kind of version of the cartoon. They just haven't told us.
Okay, so
Wait, do you know for sure that this will be talking animals?
Yes.
How do you know that for sure? Have they said that, or it's your assumption?
It is a very educated guess.
so
So you don't know that.
that's an assumption.
No, absolutely not. It's not an assumption. Of course, it will be talking animals. Of
It doesn't
course.
have to be talking animals. They could very
They're
easily
easily be what?
human
What's an alternative?
characters. They could write human characters and then have the fox and have the other animals come in and out of it, and then not have speaking roles for them, and have the people do the speaking.
Absolutely not, James. That is
What do you mean?
not an option.
In
That's
theory,
ridiculous.
anything's an option, which means that's an option.
It's not one worth mentioning. Anything that is less than a 1 in 10,000 chance as the option is not worth mentioning.
1 in 10,000. That's the best odds I can get.
They are remaking the 1973 cartoon where anthropomorphic animals play the characters of the Robin Hood story.
Yes,
They're not going to make this where it's now humans and maybe foxes appear and don't talk. That is silly.
It'll feature the characters as anthropomorphic, this time in a live action / CG hybrid format.
Right. So here's what we don't know. It could be like the Lion King remake where they try to make a realistic fox and a realistic bear and then they talk, like photorealistic. Or it could just be a 3D CGI version of the 2D drawings from the original.
Hopefully they'll make it like Jungle Book where it's realistic-ish, but still resembling the cartoon like they did in that movie.
They could be doing that. Yeah.
I'm willing to bet that it's going to be hopefully Jungle Book, possibly Lion King, but definitely not like Zootopia CG.
See, I don't know if I'm with you. I think it could easily be all three of those.
I bet you the animals are going to be closer to realistic than they are in the cartoon, with like more normal proportions to the animal.
I gotcha.
But
the reason I think that's not the case, but you can keep going if you want. The reason I think that's not the case is for something like Lion King, those were animals that were actually like animals that could talk, like they walked on all fours, that kind of thing. In Robin Hood, they're really anthropomorphic in the sense of they walk on two legs and those kind of things. There's a fox and a bear that are best friends. If you try to make that realistic, they'd be walking on all fours. It'd be hard to shoot a bow and arrow like that, without I just think that it's not the same kind of translation as with Lion King because those were just real animals in the safari, know?
But I'm saying like the animals themselves, right? Maybe they'll stand on two legs and they'll have to change the proportions in that sense. But I really think their faces are going to be closer to the real animal than the cartoon version. I don't think we're going to get big cartoon eyes and things like that.
I think we could get realistic proportions except for the eyes. That's kind of what Jungle Book did. Like you got a big bear, but it's kind of like a normal bear, but it's still blue because they extended his body a little bit and like gave him facial features that are not exactly like a bear, but they're bear-like.
Sure. I think these are all options. Again, we don't know.
Yeah.
If I got to choose, I would honestly prefer just a 3D modeled version of the 2D animated style, kind of in the style of Zootopia.
Yep.
That would probably be my preference, but I'm excited about any of those three options. Here's why I wanted to talk about the film. They announced in April 10th of 2020 that this was going to be happening in production or whatever. They announced the director and the writer and all that kind of stuff. The director directed Raya and the Last Dragon, which I think was well received. All of that sounds very positive to me. Immediately after they announced development of this, I set a Google alert to email me anytime this movie is mentioned. And it's been a year and a half and there's been zero news. Nothing. Not every day I get a daily email just rehashing the same information we already knew. And there's just nothing. No trickle. I want a trickle.
Aren't you like in direct communication with the screenwriter or something?
Yeah.
Just ask.
She's embargoed.
She told you that, or you're assuming?
I'm assuming because she won't answer.
A lot of assumptions going on here.
She'll talk about anything else, but she won't. She just was silent about that.
You didn't ask.
I did. I absolutely did. I invited her on the show.
You've asked her recently. What's up with the movie? How come no updates?
Not recently.
Zach, I just went to Google.
I want updates. Yeah.
And I put in Disney Robin Hood remake.
Yeah.
And I clicked on the news tab.
Yeah.
And I see March 7th, 2021, Disney gives green light for Robin Hood live action remake. August 4th, 2021, who are the voices behind Disney's Robin Hood? And 1 week ago, everything new on Disney Plus in October.
So we
Okay,
know the
hold on a second.
voices.
Who are the voices?
It comes out in October.
I don't know. It is going to be a Disney Plus movie. It's not going to get a theater release.
It's Disney. It's always been Disney Plus. Wait, you have voices?
Oh, okay. Sorry. This is who are the voices behind Disney's Robin Hood? Probably referring to 1970.
So frustrating,
But
Kyle. You are my Google alert.
But the latest is March 7th. Disney gives green light to Robin Hood live action remake.
So the original announcement.
Again, the original announcement that just different news outlets report over and over again with no new information.
But it's a year later. I'm just saying,
a year later, that's what I'm saying. Like a year, they've re-announced the exact same thing.
Okay,
nothing has changed.
To try to move up the Google News search ladder.
But this is designerwomen.co.uk, and they are on the forefront of news.
That's what. Yeah. Every couple days, some other random website produces this news press release.
Okay, so
thank you for getting me excited about the voice cast. That would have been amazing to know the voice cast.
Oh, here we go. Well, no, this is from 2021. You guys keep talking, and I will tell you if I find actually new information.
Like the voice should be what's his name, right? The guy Teen Wolf 2.
Jason Bateman.
Who is
no
Teen
Jason
Wolf
Bateman.
2?
Jason Bateman
Should be Jason Bateman.
Jason Bateman was Zootopia.
Right, he was the fox
I
in
do
Zootopia.
not. That would be my least favorite pick. If I could pick anyone, it would not be him.
Your least of all the people on the planet. You want Jason Bateman the least.
He wants
I
Gilbert
absolutely do not want
Gottfried
Jason
first
Bateman.
before Jason Bateman.
Yeah.
Gilbert Godfrey would not be a worse pick than Jason Bateman.
Okay.
Could you handle a full movie?
Maybe that was an emotional reaction.
Okay.
I do not want Jason Bateman. Let me be clear about that.
Okay. But maybe not
I can
the
think of
worst.
people that are worse. Yeah, there are people that are worse. I don't want Donald Trump to be the voice of Robin Hood.
That would be amazing.
But Jason Bateman, for me, I can't not think of him when I think of his voice. Plus, his kind of dry sense of humor, I don't think is Robin Hood's personality.
What's Robin Hood's personality?
It's not Jason Bateman.
Well, what is it?
Robin Hood is charming. He's debonair. He's chivalrous, and Jason Bateman is dry and sarcastic and aloof. And,
I mean, that's what he is
bit,
in the live action roles
things.
that he's in. But he's an actor; he could act those other things.
Potentially, that's who he was in Zootopia, though.
Right? Because they're typecasting him, man. It's messed up.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'd be afraid they do. And Zootopia was a Robin Hood surrogate. So
this is what he needs, though. He needs this movie to be
ridiculous.
His breakout role, where he's
no one's
not
heard of Jason
typecast.
Bateman.
He can be the suave, debonair, likable guy.
He's not even British. No, he's got to be British.
So you want Carrie Elwes, right?
Carrie Elwes isn't.
No,
British.
I don't think I do.
Carrie Elwes is definitely British.
He's British.
Yeah,
I don't think.
Unlike
he's
other Robin Hoods, he speaks in a British accent.
But I don't think he's. Carrie Elwes is British. No.
Is an English actor.
He's English.
Yeah, he's English.
He speaks English.
No, he's from England.
Oh, he's from England.
He's from London. Yeah.
Yeah, the
All
United Kingdom.
If that's true, then I agree. He's British.
And he has played Robin Hood already, though.
Yeah, for sure. I want the voice actor for Robin Hood to be British. The other characters don't have to be British.
What if the voice actor for Robin Hood was Idris Elba?
I was thinking
I'd be cool with that.
Yes,
I'd be cool with that.
You'd be cool.
Very
with
cool
that.
with that.
Okay.
Yeah, very cool with that.
What about
No
Daniel
problem,
Craig?
No, Daniel Craig would have to be a different character, I think. I don't think he'd be a good Robin
He could be
Hood.
the sheriff.
He could be the sheriff. I don't think he would be the best sheriff, but yeah, he could be the.
Or Little John. Or Prince John, I should say. Prince John. I think he could do Prince John.
I think maybe. I think you'd want someone that would eat it up a little bit more than that.
You don't think Daniel Craig can't eat it up? Did you see Knives
He
Out?
No, I did. Was that the best kind of eating it up that you could have seen?
No.
Yeah.
You know what the worst part about the Knives Out sequels are going to be? Daniel Craig, guaranteed. I do not need his detective guy to move from movie to movie. Just give me brand new people, brand new scenarios every Knives Out movie.
in the same style.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I hope that his next time he does a Knives Out sequel,
Mm-hmm.
he's the same character, but he was playing a character in that movie. So
Oh.
each time he's like, okay, now I'm going to be like, for this group, I need to be kind of like Southern and,
Yeah.
Rooster Cogburn style. For this group, I need to be more Poirot style. So like every time he shows up, he's a different character. And that's
I
how
would
he
feel
gets to
better
the
about
group.
that. I would feel better about that for sure. I think I'm just not up for another Colonel Sanders impression.
Yeah. Agreed.
him.
Agreed. If an American played Robin Hood, what do you think about Chris Evans?
Sure.
What about Christopher Pratt?
No. Too doofy.
Too
Too doofy. Wow.
Chris
No,
Pratt
just
could
too
be Prince
wisecracking.
John.
Too.
Yeah, again, I'm sure. But
Chris Pratt
what I
is
really liked,
very likable.
yeah, for sure, totally. I think Prince John, the original Prince John, was Peter Ustinov, who was like a very well-respected classical actor,
Mhm.
like hamming it up. So I would kind of like to see the same for him. Like, who played
Like Ben Kingsley. You want your
yeah, like a Ben Kingsley or Daniel Day-Lewis, something like that.
Daniel Day-Lewis.
Yeah, Daniel
Has he
Day-Lewis
ever
is
done?
gonna
I don't
do
think he's
this.
ever done voice acting.
Daniel Day-Lewis barely does a movie every 4 years. He's not wasting it on a Disney Plus channel remake of a cartoon.
He's gonna move into a 12th century castle.
Plus,
Send
he
people.
already retired. You'd have to come out of retirement for this. We're not trying to burst your bubble, Zach, but never.
You're
going
not
to
kidding,
happen.
Disney's coming to Daniel Day-Lewis. Hey, we're remaking Robin Hood. It's going right to Disney Plus. We want your voice. He's like, of course.
I'm just saying, I think he would do well for the role.
Sure. I can think of about every role that requires a white male. I think Daniel Day-Lewis would probably do a pretty decent job in.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, so basically, I just want to say, like, give us a little details, Disney Plus. Come on.
All right.
Give me something. It's been a year and a half.
I mean, designerwomen.co.uk confirmed what we knew a year ago.
Kyle, that was such a disappointment on your part.
You teased him.
Not that I
The
planned that.
tease.
My number 2 is 2 movies. Blade Runner 2049 and Dune.
Let's talk about it.
Let's talk about it. I recently rewatched Blade Runner 2049. This was probably my favorite movie of 2016, 2017 it came out.
Maybe.
Around there. I can't remember the exact year. Watched it again and so happy to watch it again because Denis Villeneuve does a awesome job of taking the Blade Runner universe and still making his own original story sequel / remake of Blade Runner, where there are enough connective threads to the original movie where you feel like, okay, this is a sequel. This does exist in this universe, but it's not just hitting all the same beats as the first Blade Runner. He's building the world out. He's developing it. He's adding his own style to it. It's a beautiful movie to look at. Just like the colors and the shots he chooses. The music is awesome too. I think this was a Hans Zimmer soundtrack, but it's Hans Zimmer being a little bit more electronic. So it's kind of keeping that 80s synth style. It's a movie that I recommend watching very loudly if you can, because that soundtrack just envelops the room. And it got me very excited for Dune, but also worried for Dune, because I realize I have very high expectations for Dune now, based on Denis Villeneuve's previous work. And is Dune overhyped is my question now. Because
Yes.
Denis Villeneuve has hit so many home runs in the past, is Dune going to be a letdown just because it may not be a home run?
Yes.
All right, great. What's your number 2?
Yeah, it's going to be a letdown.
Okay.
It's not going to be as good as people are hoping it'll be.
I think I've never read the book, but if the book is anything like the David Lynch version, I think the problem might lie at the source material
because it's so dense.
I mean, the David Lynch version made all of it feel very silly and ridiculous and overcomplicated and very involved in its own history.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like it just throwing these names and these characters at you and this like lineage where you're like, you've given us literally zero to care about this. And so I'm hoping that the new Dune will shuttle a bunch of that stuff and just give us a fun action adventure that occasionally dips into mythology to keep it going. But I don't need a history lesson on the universe of Dune again, like the David Lynch one felt like. But I also think David Lynch is a weirdo, and he wanted to make that movie, and he made it. And Denis Villeneuve, I think, is also weird in his own way, but makes very watchable movies no matter what he's making. And so I'm hoping that's what I get out of Dune. It's a very watchable movie.
I think
Like-
what I'm expecting
Mhm.
is he's going to create a very fascinating, intriguing, interesting, big world, but really just give us the very, very start of a story, and we're just going to feel like we need to wait for another installment to actually get some meat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have my doubts that we'll ever get that installment because the day and date release with Warner Brothers, I think, might kill this movie.
That's going to hurt this movie financially for sure.
I think I think this is the first one where I think it's not like Space Jam. Fine, release it at home. Who cares? You're not making another Space Jam anymore until another basketball player 20 years from now gets popular enough for you to make another one. Like the chances of it being a huge box office hit that you need to make a sequel in 2 or 3 years were slim to none before you even made it. But Dune, it sounds like from what Denis Villeneuve has said, is a thing that he wants to make multiples of, and that means it has to make box office or do amazing streaming numbers, like best ever streaming numbers. And I'm just not sure enough people care for that to happen. But maybe.
Do you think more people are going to see the movie because it's Dune or because it's Denis Villeneuve?
Absolutely, because it's Denis
It's
Villeneuve.
the latter, yeah.
I think there's a lot of fans of Dune out there. Not enough to make a big budget movie successful. It's no Lord of the Rings or Harry Potter or, even Hunger Games. It's lesser known than Hunger Games.
I think Dune is the Lord of the Rings of sci-fi.
Right. But people who don't read fantasy have read Lord of the Rings.
Zach, I'm going to argue that Foundation is the Lord of the Rings of sci-fi.
Okay. I think that's fair.
Yeah. And that's got
Yeah.
a big TV release right now.
Yeah.
Right. But I would put Foundation on the same level as Dune. Only a select reader has read that. Whereas Lord of the Rings, not everybody, but a lot of people read it, even if they never picked up another fantasy novel.
And Harry Potter's the same way. People were reading Harry Potter even if they didn't care about fantasy wizards, things like that.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Well,
Cool.
we'll be talking about Dune in a couple weeks, so we'll see what happens.
I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to go see it in a movie theater.
Oh, for sure. Yes.
Even though I absolutely could watch it at home, I have to see that movie in a movie theater because it's Denis Villeneuve. And I'm literally getting nothing out of my AMC subscription, so I have to find something to watch. All right, my number 2 is from 2009, The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. Not the Fincher version, the Swiss version.
Original.
The Swiss
Is it
version.
Swiss? Is it Swiss?
Oh, sorry.
Or is it Swedish?
Swedish.
Wait.
I get them confused.
Yeah. Haha.
That's really funny.
So, Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, starring Numi Rapace. Rapace?
Rapace.
Chiwetel Elijah 4.
It's Italian.
It's not Rapace. I think it's Rapace.
I think it's Rapace.
Numi Rapace and Michael Nyqvist, I think is how you say that name. So Michael Nyqvist plays the 007 role, and Numi plays the girl with the dragon tattoo role. But the David Fincher movie is good, right? Because it's a David Fincher movie. That's why it's good, right?
It's pretty dark.
But it's one movie in a series of 3, and it definitely feels like that to me. It feels like not a complete thing, and that's odd for Fincher movies. Fincher movies generally live in their own world. You don't need sequels to them. And right, David Fincher's never done a sequel. Is that true? I think that's true.
I mean, Fight Club 2 was pretty good.
Sorry, forgot about that. Haven't seen it yet. Direct to video. So, whereas this is all 3 movies based on all 3 novels. It's a story from beginning to end. It's definitely a time commitment because it's like 6 hours, but it's totally worth it, especially if you kind of watch it like a mini series. You know what I mean? Like if you approach it not as like, oh, I gotta watch these 3 2-hour long movies, but instead you just go, okay, maybe I'll watch an hour tonight and an hour the next night, and before long you're binge watching it. You didn't even realize it, and it's over, and it will absolutely suck you in. And the best part of the series is not the first movie, even though that's the one that broke it, right? Like broke the book out here in the United States. It was already like an international bestseller, and then it got big here in the United States. Then they brought the first movie over, released it here. It did well in art house cinemas. Then they were like, well, just like everything good that started internationally, we got to make an English version of this. So they made it, and they got a good director, and it didn't do well enough for them to do more of them. So I guess I'm bringing this up because I think the Girl with the Dragon Tattoo trilogy is severely underrated. And if you're looking for some like dark crime novel, but with some interesting kind of like spy-ish elements and some cool like female empowerment themes, absolutely, you should dip your toe in the Swedish version of The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. It's really good.
Now, is it all 3 books over 6 hours?
It's all 3 books in 3 movies, and I'm estimating each movie is 2 hours.
It's 2 hours. So
I don't know the actual runtime. It looks like the first movie is an hour and 53 minutes.
Mhm.
So it might be like 7 or 8 hours by the time you combine them all. I don't know.
And wasn't the Fincher movie just based on the first movie?
Yes.
Sorry, the first book.
The first book.
Okay, so what I find interesting is that the Fincher movie was 2.5 hours long.
Mm-hmm.
It felt incomplete. So how does the 2-hour version of the same source feel more complete? Or is it because you get the rest of the story but with the other 2 books?
So from my memory of the Fincher one, which I've only seen once, is that he changed the focus of the characters from what the Swedish. I've never read the book, so I don't know if that's more true to the book, but in the Swedish version, you focus a lot more on the titular girl with the dragon tattoo. In the Fincher version, he had 007 as his lead, and so he used him and focused a lot on the reporter, when the Swedish version does not do that.
And
it's better for it.
Yeah, and that felt weird in the Fincher version. That's the only version I've seen where it's 2 parallel stories for a long time, and they finally, like halfway through the movie, meet up. But for the first half of that movie, you're following them separately, and it felt odd to me.
Yeah, in the Swedish version, it focuses a lot, especially with the first movie, focuses a lot on the hacker with the tattoo, and she interacts occasionally with the reporter who helps her out with things. And then by the end of the movie, he's in deep enough in a place where a reporter shouldn't put themselves. You know what I mean? Like he's compromised his ethics to help her with something. And that sets off the results of the next two movies. Which they kind of do in the Fincher version, but they just take so long to get there, and there's just so much Daniel Craig when it's not his story. I mean, it's like right there in the title that it's not his story. And yet Fincher made it his story. So, in my opinion. Yeah, I guess that's the end of my number 2. If you have not seen it, if you're sleeping on it, get to it.
Nice. Okay, my number 1 movie that I want to talk about is an Elvis biopic that is
Starring
coming out
Patrick
next
Swayze?
year.
Oh, okay.
No. It's coming out next year. And I didn't know about this, and I'm excited about it for a couple of reasons. Let me lay them out for you. Number 1, I'm surprised there hasn't been like a big Elvis biopic that's come out, right? Like one of the biggest names in music, right? In the history of like, modern Western music.
Sure.
And we just really haven't seen much. Second, it's starring, this is the movie that Tom Hanks was filming when he got coronavirus in Australia. So it stars Tom Hanks and Austin Butler as Austin Butler is going to play Elvis Presley. Tom Hanks plays his manager. And I think Tom Hanks being attached to it makes me feel like it's already going to be like a certain caliber, right? It's not going to just be some random piece of junk. And it's directed by Baz Luhrmann.
Oh,
you love that guy.
I really like Baz Luhrmann a lot. And I feel like attaching Baz Luhrmann to something with music is a good combination because his style is very, music adjacent. And I am super curious what a Baz Luhrmann Elvis biopic would look like. And so, yeah, this is a movie that I think is going to be really good. It's going to come out mid next year.
I'm interested.
yeah.
Kyle's frozen. You stunned him, Zach, with this.
They're like, why haven't we gotten an Elvis movie?
Sure.
I mean, that is a good question. We've gotten lots of biopics for a lot of other rock and roll artists of the same era. And why not Elvis? I'm not sure. I'm curious to know what kind of movie biopic Baz Luhrmann is going to make.
Yeah.
Because yes, he's done music before.
A highly stylized one.
Yeah. So I'm almost intrigued. I don't like Baz Luhrmann, but I'm intrigued by this idea of what does his take on a biopic look like. But I'm curious to see Tom Hanks and Baz Luhrmann together. Because I don't know if Tom Hanks is a stylized kind of guy.
Yeah, I think it just could be a very interesting mix.
It could be.
And, reading about the different actors and roles they're playing in the film has me excited as well. They're going to have like Little Richard's going to be in this, being played by Alton Mason.
Oh.
And when you Google Alton Mason, he's a new-coming actor. It's like, oh yeah, that would be a great Little Richard. Like I could totally picture this, so it's got me excited.
Austin Butler played Tex Watson in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Which one was Tex Watson?
He was the cowboy one. He was one of the invaders at the very end.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly.
Don't remember.
He busts into the
Was
house.
he good?
Yeah, he busts into the house with Brad Pitt, and Brad Pitt had seen him before. Brad Pitt's high. Brad Pitt's like, "Hey, I know you. Like, you've got some name. I can't remember what it is." And then Tex Watson says the actual line he said, like, "I am the incarnate of death." And then, yeah. And then Brad Pitt's something like, "Nah, it was something dumber than that. You were on a horsey."
Huh. I need to rewatch Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I only saw it that once in theaters.
I rewatched it, and because I knew what was coming for the ending, it didn't bother me as much, just because I was expecting it. The first time around, the ending was such a departure from the rest of the movie. Not a departure from Tarantino, but just a departure from the movie that it really threw me off. And the second time around, like, okay, I know what's coming. I know what's happening. So I was mentally prepared for it to happen. Not that I like it, but at least it wasn't as jarring.
Okay.
So I feel like if you didn't like the movie because of the ending, give it a second chance. You may not like the ending again, but it may not sour the rest of the movie for you because it's not as jarring.
Okay.
I like the ending. Thought it totally made sense. Both as a Tarantino movie and as like why he changed history in other movies. So the change in history here made total sense to me.
Yeah, no, it was just the movie took on a totally different tone than the first 2 hours.
Yeah.
Like Inglourious Bastards, he changes history, but it keeps the same tone throughout. So when they're killing Nazis in a theater, they've been killing Nazis the whole movie. So you're like, okay, well, I understand like how this fits into the whole story. But Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, we're hanging out in late 60s Hollywood for 2 hours, and it's a hangout movie.
Mm-hmm.
And then it becomes a 15-minute Tarantino horror fest. And I just found those two did not jive together for me. Not that I didn't expect that from Tarantino, but just it was a complete tonal shift from what I was getting for the rest of the movie.
I agree that the movie it does do that, but I think yeah, I think we talked about this.
Oh, it's
vaguely.
Yeah,
that I think the movie sets up that it's a movie about a murder, a real life murder, and you're moving towards that murder as people know it. And you want to see Tarantino's version of that murder, which was grisly,
yeah,
to say the least, in real life. And he doesn't give you that version of that murder. He gives you his own version of a murder and saves somebody who in real life was not saved. And to me, that's the better version of this story. It's the fantasy version of what happened in real life, but it's the better version.
But we're getting the comical version with like dogs biting people in the nuts and women screaming in the pool, like going all crazy. Like he took it. He didn't just give me grisly murder. He took it to this almost comical extreme. It was just he took it too far for me, I thought.
Sure. He lulled you into thinking that you were going to get a hangout movie version of a grisly murder in which a pregnant woman was about to be murdered, right? Amongst other people.
No, so I'm very glad he did not show me the actual murders.
Sure.
If he chose not to change history, James, we definitely had this conversation before. I feel like I'm rehashing this.
Right. It's been a while.
Yeah. So I'll wait for it.
It's not a tumor.
Oh, wrong one.
It's been a while.
There we go.
I'll just say my final point of my thesis is it was too much of a tonal shift.
You didn't like the tone change.
No, I understood where it was heading, but then we were on one trajectory to get there, and all of a sudden we just went like, let's go this way, and it was jarring.
Yeah, the tone change to me, and this is what I thought, and what I've heard Tarantino say since then, is intentional, and it's not necessarily to punish the audience, but this is what you expect from me. So I'm going to give you that, but not in the way you thought you were going to get it. You're not going to get some crazy scene where the characters that I love, speaking as Tarantino, the characters that he came to love are going to get grisly murdered. He's going to let the characters that he's created do the murdering. So you're still going to get what you want from Tarantino, in theory, what he thinks his fans want from him, but not in the way they think they're going to get which is why they advertise it as it's a movie about the family murders and stuff like that, when that's in the movie, but that's not what the movie's about. So cool. What were we talking? We weren't even talking about Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
We were talking about Baz Luhrmann directing Elvis.
Baz Luhrmann directing Elvis. What a journey.
Mine always gets sidetracked.
I know.
Yeah.
I think the only Baz Luhrmann movie I've seen is Romeo and Juliet, and I enjoyed it. I still haven't seen The Great Gatsby, although I do have it on Blu-ray. Thank you, Zach. I think you bought that for me 5 years ago, maybe 4.
You also haven't seen Moulin Rouge?
I have seen Moulin Rouge, so I've seen more than one Baz Luhrmann. What else?
Okay.
Maybe I've seen more.
Strictly Ballroom?
Nope.
Ooh.
Never seen it.
All right. You're in the clear.
Have I seen it? Who's it star?
Probably not. Have you seen Australia?
Maybe with
Hugh Jackman
Kidman?
and Nicole Kidman? Yeah.
I definitely know of Australia, but I'm not sure I've actually seen it.
Okay.
But it's possible I've seen it and I've forgotten about it.
That's interesting that he makes a movie once every 5-6 years. Like he's not cranking them out.
Right.
I mean, how could you when you're making those movies? They're like big productions with lots of music, and I don't know. Feels like the type of thing you can't make every year and a half, 2 years.
Yeah.
At least not well.
Right. Because you're basically putting together a play and then filming it.
Yeah. James, did you watch the TV show The Get Down?
No. Can't say I did.
Okay.
HBO show, I think.
I don't remember.
Kyle, what is your number one?
My number one is a top 100 movie that I don't know if has ever come up on this podcast. And I don't even think this director has come up that often on this podcast. This is Princess Mononoke, directed by Hayao Miyazaki from 1997.
I mean, this movie has come up, but I've never seen it. Zach?
I've seen it.
Okay.
This is my first Miyazaki film. I saw it when it was released in the United States in the late 90s. I think it was 98, 99. It finally came to theaters. And it changed my opinion on Japanese animation. I think anime is too reductive. The anime is a very broad term. So just Japanese animation. This movie completely changed my opinion on what it could look like and be like.
Wait, you don't want to use the word anime, even though that's what it is?
I mean, I feel like
what it is.
I thought anime refers to a specific style of Japanese animation.
I don't think so.
Or is anime just Japanese animation?
Yeah.
I think it's just Japanese animation.
Okay. All right. Great. Well, then anime. We'll use the term.
I might be wrong. If there's a listener out there, let us know if we're wrong.
Please,
about that.
yeah.
But I think generally that umbrella is fine and it's not reductive of anything.
Pre this movie, my thoughts on anime were things like Dragon Ball Z, or like the old not Transformers, but the old like Voltron, which I liked, but that was a kids show, or things like Ninja Scrolls, which I found to be terribly violent and over sexualized. I never really cared for anime movies, and I thought that's kind of what anime was. And then I saw Princess Mononoke, and I realized, oh no, there's so much more to Japanese animation than just like these few examples. And this has become my favorite Miyazaki film. It still is. I rewatched it a week ago, and it is great. And what makes it so great is the story it tells is not black and white. Like there are clear forces of good and evil, but it's not a case of like when we must only follow good and we must defeat evil. Like this movie is about balance, and like how can you find a balance between all these competing forces with competing interests. This movie takes place in feudal Japan. I think it's like the 14th, 15th century, around that time. And there is a warrior in a village who gets cursed by a boar that's been turned into a demon. And he travels into distant lands to find this curse and to defeat it, because he knows that this curse will eventually come to his lands and, sort of encompass everything. And then he gets drawn into this conflict as he travels between man and industry versus nature, where you've got a woman on one end who is she's basically cutting down the forest to create a village and building weapons to fight nature and to conquer. And then you have nature itself, which is responding to her cutting down the forest and trying to build weapons. And then you've got Ashitaka as the main character. He's kind of in the middle of it, but he's not trying to say like nature's right or this woman's right. He's just trying to find this balance between the two. And it's incredible storytelling over the runtime of the movie. The animation itself is amazing. You've got these enormous beasts like wolves with two tails, giant boars. There's a deer god, there's demons. So it's incredibly creative animation, and it's violent, which I did not remember. There's a couple scenes where the main character uses his bow and arrow, and like because he's cursed, he's now extra strong, and he'll shoot his bow and arrow at someone and like hit him in the head, and their head just pops off like a dandelion. I was like, it happened multiple times, or like a limb would just come right off. Like, oh my goodness, I do not remember the movie being this violent, especially for PG-13. I love this movie. I really enjoyed watching it. It's a movie I could easily watch again. I do want to watch it with my son someday, but he's a little young for it right now. I did learn that Harvey Weinstein, he brought this movie over to America, to the United States, and he wanted to cut it down to 90 minutes. It's 2 hours and 15 minutes long. And he wanted the 90-minute version. And Miyazaki said, no, this movie is 2 hours and 15 minutes. And Harvey Weinstein did his, as we know now, his Harvey Weinstein thing, like, blah, 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 I'm Weinstein. You'll never work in this town again, blah, 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 blah. Put up a big fit. Miyazaki won. He's one of the few people back in that day who beat Harvey Weinstein in his own game.
Yeah, I remember when this movie came out, too. It was like one of the first Miyazaki movies to be released in the theaters, like get its own theatrical run.
Yeah, I think before this, you needed to go to VHS to watch his movies.
Yeah, and you needed, and they got American actors to do voices, and like anime fans were in an uproar because the only option to watch it in a theater was with the English dubbed version.
Correct. Yes, I will say that I prefer to rewatch these movies with subtitles, just because Disney does most of the voice work for these movies, and Disney in the past has changed the content of the story or of the dialogue in the English translations. So the subtitles
to make it more palatable, or what do you mean?
Or just simplify it to try and make it make it more palatable for an American audience culturally wise. Not necessarily content wise, but I'd rather just see the original story as told. I don't mind subtitles. It doesn't bother me. So
sure. But
if people want to watch it with the voice cast, that's totally fine. Like I'm not going to be a purist in that sense. You do have, I remember Gillian Anderson does a voice, Claire Danes, Billy Crudup, Billy Bob Thornton. It's a very late 90s cast in that sense.
You're not going to be that guy, but I will.
Be that guy.
If you're watching a foreign film, do animated live action, do not watch the dubbed version. Come on. Can we be adults here and just turn on the subtitles and watch it in its original form? If you can't be bothered, just go watch something else, in my opinion. Zach, you have no opinion on this.
For live action, I do subtitles. For animated, I think I'm more okay with English dubbing.
Is it just because
it's animated?
The voices don't line up anyway to the mouths, so you can kind of get away with it.
Yeah.
No. I don't want to hear an American voice. I don't want to see a live action movie where all the characters exist in Japan. They're all Japanese, and an American voice comes out of their mouth. live
So
action or animated.
don't watch-
It doesn't feel right to me.
Don't watch kung fu movies then. It's all you got.
Right, because they dubbed them.
Yeah.
But they shouldn't have done that back then either, in my opinion. But that's fine. We'll just dumb it down to get people to watch it.
I think sadly, and I could be wrong. I'm just gonna go on a limb here, and I could be wrong on American audiences. I think American audiences prefer dubbed over subtitles. I think American Miyazaki fans prefer subtitles over dubbed. But your general audience is not going to want to read.
I think generally people who are into anime would prefer to watch the originals.
Yeah.
They seem to be, at least diehard anime people are very pro original. I just think it's, I can't stand it. I've watched several Netflix series now that like were not made for English audiences. And somehow it ends up on my dashboard. And since Netflix knows I speak English, they automatically turn on the English version when I start the show. It's so annoying because sometimes I don't even realize it's in a different language until like 15 minutes in. And then I'm like, why does this feel so weird?
Yeah.
And then I'll realize, oh, this is a German show and they've dubbed it in English. And that's why the mouth doesn't perfectly line up and the inflection doesn't feel right and all of those different things. And then it's like, okay, I'm going to switch it back to the proper language. It's annoying. Have you guys watched Squid Game?
Not yet.
No, everyone's talking about that. Why are they talking about it?
Because it's good.
Is it?
Yeah, it is good.
Is it good
It's
or is it just weird? So
weird, but
Okay.
it's also good. But it's incredibly violent. And it's violent in like ways that anime is violent. In that it's just like ultra violence and it's just a part of the story type of thing. You can either be bothered by it or you can go with it. And it's crazy that show is number one like across the world because it's incredibly violent, I would say.
Are we
It's
talking?
literally about without spoilers, it's like people in debt playing kids games where if you lose, like let's say you decided to play freeze tag, if you lose, you get shot in the head right in front of your opponent who just beat you. And you're playing for prize money. You play like 6 different kids games and each one more and more people get eliminated until there's one person.
It sounds a lot like Battle Royale.
It's a battle royale for adults spread over 8 episodes.
Oh, that sounds terrible.
Is it only one game for all 8 episodes, or is each episode its own game?
Each episode is a different game. So the first episode is named Simon Says. It's literally the game they play. They play Simon Says in that episode. And yeah, but it's good. I mean, I'm invested and it's very well made, but I'm just shocked that it's like worldwide a hit type of thing because it's very subversive material, I would say.
I can't do these deathmatch reality show stories. Like even Hunger Games, I was unsure going into it. I do not like Battle Royale. Do you guys remember the movie Series 7?
No.
Series 7 was like the American version of Battle Royale, where it was a reality show where people are hunting each other. And it was presented satirically, but it's just the concept of people competing to the death for our entertainment is just, it's too dark, it's too nihilistic. It's not a world that I want to imagine, and it's a world I'm afraid we're eventually going to get to. So I just don't even want to dabble in that as entertainment purposes.
Sure. I could see that. All right. My number 1, right? Is that what we're on?
Yeah.
Last one. 2016. this is a list of movies that I want to talk about, and this is a movie that I'm fairly sure neither of you have seen, so we can't really talk about it, but I really want to talk about it. 2016, A Cure for Wellness. Right? Neither of you have seen this movie.
No.
I'm assuming.
Is Emma Watson?
No.
No. Okay.
Emma Watson.
No, this is the Gore Verbinski.
Gore Verbinski, Dane DeHaan, the guy from Chronicle, the bad guy in Chronicle, bad kid in Chronicle, and Jason Isaacs and Mia Goth. And this movie is so messy and so weird. And I'm not necessarily saying it's a great movie. I'm saying it's very much like a Southland Tales movie where really big swings are made and not all of them hit, but all of them are interesting that they even got swung at, type of thing. And if you like movies like Shutter Island, there's strong similarities here. It's just, this is the strange version. Like wherever Shutter Island could have gone left or right, this movie goes up or down. Which is just not the obvious choice and not always the best choice, but certainly an interesting choice. And that's how the entire movie plays. It's 146 minutes, so it's a commitment. It's long. It bombed at the box office, and it was criticized for being overlong, and I get that. But it's one of those movies that I don't think I know another person personally on the planet that has seen this. But the people who love it really love it. Like I've heard other podcasters stump for the movie. And so I guess what I'm saying is I need one of you guys to watch it so I can talk about it with somebody.
All right, not it.
Which one of us would like it more? Potentially.
I
Kyle.
think that it's a better chance that Kyle likes it.
Okay.
But Zach, for as much as I've talked to him about movies, on the record, I can't get a read. When I think he'll hate something, he ends up liking it. When I think he'll probably like it, he doesn't like it. So I don't know, which is weird because you'd think I would have a fairly good read on what Zach would like before he watches it. But I've been proven wrong over and over. So I don't know.
Kyle, one of Kyle's top 100 is The Orphanage.
This
So I
has
think you'll like
more
this.
in line with Shutter Island than something like The
Okay.
Orphanage, I would
Okay.
say. No, I think Kyle likes Shutter Island too, right? Well enough.
Well enough, yeah. It was
Yeah.
good.
I think that's probably where Zach lies with Shutter Island too. You don't hate it.
I
but-
didn't really like it that much.
Oh, okay. Then probably Kyle. This is like
I
the
don't like
weird
Shutter.
version of Shutter Island
Okay.
with like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood-esque tonal shifts. But like but like every half an hour it's shifting tones, and like the movie will start out and a half an hour in you'll be like, oh, I totally know what this is eventually building to. I don't know the details of where it's going to go, but I know these types of movies go this way. And then 30 minutes in it'll be like, nope, we're not what you thought we were. And then like an hour
Interesting.
in they're like, yep, we're changing again. You
Okay.
thought this turned into a monster movie and it's not.
Okay.
So my number one.
All right. Well, since this is your number one, I'll put on my watch list.
Okay.
There. It's official.
Someday.
Wow.
It is on the watch list.
How
It's
long is that
officially
watch
on the
list?
watch list.
Yeah. So there's just 279
I
other
was gonna
movies in
say.
front of it.
Yeah, there's like 4 years worth of movie watching before it.
That's hilarious.
It
James,
is
how long is your
also
watch
not
list?
easily accessible on streaming.
Yeah,
so
it's
that'll
on
make it-
nothing right now. So,
Right.
but you know, it might pop up on like Pluto TV for all I know, and I can
Yeah.
watch it with
If you-
commercials.
If you enjoyed Rango, you know how Rango's like interesting but not perfect?
Yeah.
Absolutely. A Cure for Wellness is that type of movie.
Oh, it's Gore Verbinski, of course, same director.
Same director.
There we go. I put it together.
Yep.
I do see it takes place in the Swedish Alps, so that's interesting.
It does take place in the Swedish Alps. Yeah.
Guys, don't. He's a Patreon supporter.
We're poking the bear. All right. Well, thank you guys for joining us for this episode 498 of the Cinereelists. We appreciate your listenership. Don't forget, you can always watch the video version of this podcast on YouTube. You can leave us a comment and a star review on Apple Podcast Reviews. You could send us an email to heyguys@cinereelists.com. You could support us on Patreon, get extra after show audio, just like this week. We're going to play Sweden versus Switzerland for one of our Patreon listeners, Marco. And yeah, you could also follow us on social media at Cinereelists on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram. You could also follow me on my personal Twitter or Letterboxd account at YoJRB.
And I'm on Twitter or Letterboxd at Shaban.
You can find me on Letterboxd at PeterSKB.
Next week, we will be doing part 1 of our 2-part, which is really 4-part double header series.
No. There's no 4 parts.
Something like that. I forget how Kyle described
Next
it at
week
the beginning.
is
there's 4 parts.
Next week is part 1 of part 2 of our 2-episode 2-part series.
Okay. That actually made sense. That's not what he said at the beginning of the podcast.
It's exactly
right,
what
Zach?
I said at the beginning.
Isn't
that
it a
actually made
4-episode,
sense.
2-part series?
No,
No,
say it
no.
again, Kyle.
Next week is part 1 of part 2 of our 2-part episode series. Oh, now I lost it.
You said it different. You said it different.
Now I lost it.
He lost the thread.
Darn it.
He said it perfect once. It actually made sense.
That previous one was perfect.
Right. So
I will work on it for next week. Don't worry.
In all seriousness, every 100 episodes, we do a top 100, and we've been counting backwards for some reason. And because we're on episode 500, 499 and 500, we have to count down our top 500 to 401. And so that starts next week. We'll see you there. Until then, keep it cinereal.
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.